Hey guys, this is Will from Monkey Steals Peach here, and for today's video I want to talk about these big kung fu schools that cater purely to foreigners, and are they just a rip-off or is there anything valuable there? So for those of you that have been following my blog for a few years will know that back in 2009 I spent a year at one of these schools which was called Kunyu Shan. So I want to share my experiences there and my opinions of it in the hope that it can give you a better informed decision if you're going to come to China to train. So when I first came to China and I was first starting to learn Chinese, I spent some time going around the parks and looking for teachers there. I trained a few different styles, I learned some different skills, but ultimately I felt like I was lacking this real foundation. You know, I was getting bits and pieces, but there wasn't really a cohesive whole, and I wasn't really getting the kind of intense training that I was wanting, and that's why I decided to go to Kunyu Shan to spend a year training full time in Kung Fu. I'll tell you a little bit about what the training was like, and hopefully that can answer your question about whether it's right for you or not. Ultimately, the training consisted a lot of fitness and conditioning, learning forms, and sanda, which is Chinese kickboxing. So when you're learning the forms, basically you choose a style that you want to learn, and then you get grouped off to train under that teacher. Now, if you learn Shaolin, which is the most popular, you train under usually under a young instructor who has graduated from one of the large academies around the Shaolin Temple, and they've usually taken a monk name, but their sandai should usually be pretty good, and their forms, quite often they've been part of a wushu team or something like that, so their forms are pretty good, but there is a focus on the performance aspects and a huge influence from modern wushu in there. So you will be learning a lot of acrobatics, you know, spins and jumps and jumping kicks and sort of exotic animal styles and weapons and things like that. But there are some traditional Shaolin forms sort of thrown in there as well. And then if you learn one of another style of Kung Fu, then yeah, you pretty much will be learning traditional forms. As far as the sanda, it's pretty much just kickboxing training. So the fitness and conditioning aside, you're doing a lot of pad work, you're learning different combinations, punches, kicks, all that sort of stuff, basic takedowns, doing sparring, and then once a month there's usually full contact fights that take place between the different groups. I'd say it's not really a competition. It's just a way of, you know, everybody being able to test their skills and gauge their progress. But with this in mind, there is next to no connection between the forms and the fighting that you're learning. You know, when you learn forms, you're doing forms. When you learn sanda, you're doing sanda, but there isn't really any connection between the two. The techniques you learn in the forms, sometimes the teachers will explain the applications and stuff to you, but they're not going to be the techniques that you're using when you're learning to fight. You are going to be fighting just with kickboxing, so you need to understand that there is that huge gap there. And in my experience, after about half a year, I started to really plateau. You know, I was collecting more and more forms, but I don't think overall my level was really improving. As far as the fitness and conditioning, you do tend to just peak because it doesn't continue growing in intensity, it just stays the same. So once your body is adjusted to that, there's not really that much continued progress. So with that in mind, what sort of people are these Kung Fu schools suitable for? Well, in my opinion, if you are new to martial arts and perhaps you just want to come and get the experience just to see what it's like, while traveling the world, I think it's going to be a really great experience, and you're going to really, really enjoy it. Maybe do 1, 2, 3 months. I think it's really, really good for that. Also, if you are quite new to martial arts, or you've done a little bit before but you want to come to China and take it really seriously, I think it's a really good introduction. It's a good way to get your foot in the door, to come into the country, get used to the environment of training here. And I think the biggest thing is it will really build you up with a good, strong foundation that you can then go off and find higher level teachers by yourself, and you'll be much better prepared for that. You see, the issue with training in a more traditional way in China is that you have to really, really be self-motivated. A lot of these teachers who, aren't running big schools, they don't really have the patience to just, wait around while you're doing, you're running, doing all your push-ups and stretches and arm conditioning and all that sort of stuff. They really just expect you to do all that by yourself, and then they're just going to be teaching you the technicalities. So I think, if you're not already an experienced martial artist, that's quite difficult to do. Keeping yourself motivated and training as hard as you really need to is very, very difficult to do without somebody pushing you there and without an environment where everybody's doing it together. So for that sense, I would say that before you go off and train with masters like that, you'd be better coming and doing, I reckon, 3 to 6 months at one of these schools, just to really change the way your body moves and really build up your foundation so that you can appreciate what these teachers have to offer. At the same time, I think if you're already an experienced martial artist, you're already pretty good, you're going to find these schools a bit of a letdown, and you're going to find them a bit boring, because you're not really going to be getting that high level training and that sort of personalized, tailored approach. You really just spend a lot of time drilling basics and learning lots and lots of forms and things like that. So I think you will find that it's not for you at all, and I wouldn't suggest an experienced martial artist to come to one of these places. So I hope that this video gave you a few ideas about training martial arts. If you're thinking of coming to China, what should you look for? And it's maybe given you some food for thought so that you can be better prepared when you're looking at schools. And don't take my word for it. This is just my own opinion. Maybe other people will have completely different suggestions, different experiences. So look around, talk to as many people as you can. And yeah, thank you very much. I'll see you for the next video.